In this video, I'll show you how to set up your AWS account to connect to the sanity-s3-files plugin. So assuming you already have an AWS account, I will open S3. I'll create a bucket. And in this case, I'll do sanity-s3-files example 2, whatever is the name that works best for you. I will copy my settings from an existing one. Of course, you won't do that, but just so I can walk you through what is the settings that you need. Disable object ownership. There will be plenty of configurations that are security related for S3. For most cases, we're doing the most permissive ones. If you do have a different requirement, reach out and we can think about updating the plugin to support your use case. We are not going to block all public access because that allows us to access the objects from the front end. And I do need to acknowledge that. No bucket versioning, in my case, no tags, feel free to use them. The default encryption settings, and then object lock, I will disable. So that's it. Now that the bucket has been created, I'll open it. I'll go into permissions and I will configure the course settings, which will allow me to both upload from the studio as well as read it in my front end. So I'll click on edit. I'll paste the example one. In this case, for this example, I'll just do a star, so any origin. I'm allowing every origin for both get, post, and put. I guess I could even join them together. So the post and put are for uploading and deleting objects in the bucket from the studio, and the get is for rendering them. So let's save these changes. There we go. Now we're going to creating a function row so that we can use in our AWS Lambda for accessing from the studio. So now I will search the IAM console. I'll go into access management, policies, and create new policy. This is a little bit complicated, so I'm cheating, taking a look at another screen. So I'll need to choose a service, S3. And then the proper actions are going to write, then delete object, or sorry, let me zoom out a little bit. Delete object and put, where's that? Yeah, you may need to do a Command F, Control F to search. So put object and put object ACL, which I think is deprecated, not here anymore. Or, oh, there you go. It moved into permission management. Yes, so you do delete object, put object, and put object ACL. And then in resources, you do specific, add ARNs, and then you can choose the name of the bucket. So in our case, it was sanity-s3-files example 2. In this case, I'll just do any, to be honest. Yeah, the object name does need to be any. So I add that. And then request conditions, I'll leave empty and create a policy. So let's name it sanity-s3-files example policy. Or I guess I'll do policy example 2. Again, whatever name convention works for you. We now have the service for the S3 with the ability to put objects, delete objects, and put objects ACLs so we can actually access them. Now we're going to roles under access management. So still in IAM, and we'll again create a new one. We want AWS service for the trusted entity type. The use case is Lambda. And then we want to add permissions and search for the row that we just created. So sanity-s3-files policy example 2 in this, here on the checkbox. And then I'll name the row again, sanity-s3-files example 2 row. And that's about it. So create it. There we go. So we are done with IAM. It's the more complicated clicking many buttons. So we'll now go to Lambda. So first we go into the Lambda dashboard. And we'll create a new function. Author from scratch. Let's name it. So sanity again. S3. I really recommend just following a single naming pattern for both the row, the policy, the bucket, and the function. Okay, so give me 1 second. We'll choose the runtime node 20 or higher. The architecture, I just went with the default. Permissions, we're going to change the default execution rule to use an existing one, which is that one we just created. Then in advanced settings, we want to enable function URL. We're going to need to come back to it. The auth type is none, meaning it is a public HTTP endpoint that anyone can access. We're going to do our own validation in a different way. And invoke mode, it can be buffered. I honestly don't know the difference. We do want to configure cores, and that's about it. So name it, runtime is node 20 or higher, architecture is the default, use the row we just created, and enable function URL with auth type none, and cores enabled. So we're going to create a function. Before I go into the actual code source, I'll go into configuration. In function URL, I'm going to click on edit. So then I can then edit the course definition. So right now it's allowed origins any. I'm glad with this, in this case. I do want to allow the content type header though. Otherwise it will not work. And then the method, we're also going to allow everything. I guess we could say it's get, post, and put. Actually, really only post and put are the two ones that we access. I'll just do the star. And then that's about it. So I'll save. Now, I think we are done. So I can come into my code and copy the example that we have. So this is going to be on GitHub. The only thing you need to take a look at here is the secret. Use whatever secret you also use in Yosemite Studio to prevent anyone from being able to access this from outside of Sanity. And then store this secret in the plugin through the configuration dialog, better than through the JavaScript configuration. This way it's stored in a safe Sanity document. Just going through very quickly, we just parse the request, the method, just make sure we have a body that has a bucket key and a region, which is what we eventually use. We also validate the secret to make sure it's equals the one we have in Lambda. Then we instantiate the S3 client. And we use this Lambda function to both handle the signed URL creation for uploading objects and files, as well as for deleting objects that are already in S3. And the way it works, we just use S3's SDKs for it. So we do a put object command and etc. etc. I won't get into the details here. So that should be it. Just make sure you deploy your changes and you don't have that badge. Okay. If you test, you should receive an error. So missing bucket key and bucket region. So then you can sort of configure to use the region and keys you want. So if you're finding that this did not work at first, I really recommend going through this event creation and sending events and trying it out, or going through Postman or some sort of API request. So you can isolate it from the Sanity Studio, because you should be able to get, as an example here, I have my Thunder client in VS Code, which is mini version of Postman. I guess I broke it. Oh, right. If I do file name, this key so file .png, I should be able to get back a signed URL. So to run this test with the bucket key, bucket region, file name, everything that you've tested before you move on to debugging other things. This is a very complicated process, so I understand if you don't get it right at first. I cannot help everyone. I am sorry. This video is hopefully to help most of you. But if you are willing to pay me for my time, do reach out through email, and then I can find some time to help. Hopefully you understand that, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye-bye. Oh, actually, last thing, copy this function URL, and then the bucket key and the bucket region. These are the ones you're going to use to configure the plugin. In my case here, for example, in the test studio that you can find in the repository, we have the bucket key region, get signed URL. All that is done through the credentials object. I would always recommend not including a secret for validating here, because then you save that in the Sanity database as a private document, and it's not included in the final JavaScript bundle. That's it, and I hope you have an amazing day.